Welcome to They Are Waiting for Us from Forbes Books, the podcast that explores how education can transform lives and communities, featuring conversations with change agents who are making a difference in education, from parents and advocates to teachers and leaders. Here's Dr. Lisa Andrew.
I'm back with Lesley Slaton Brown, the Chief DEI Officer for the NBA. So far, we've covered how her education and experience at Boise State prepared her for a DEI career that's made her a trailblazer and inspiring leader paving the way for positive change. Lesley, you've been named the most powerful woman in corporate diversity by Black Enterprise, a top influential woman in corporate America by Forbes magazine, and DEI trailblazer by Business Insider. I'm thinking you might have a milestone or two that may have shaped your career journey so far. So can you walk us through?
Actually, I actually started my career. So my degree was in communications. And I remember a teacher asking me what do I like? What do I do? Because I wasn't sure what I wanted to major in. And actually for many, many years, I wanted to go into dentistry. And when I researched it, there were data points that I found. I was like, it's like it had the highest suicide rate, and I'll pass there, right?
Oh my gosh, I never thought that.
But I mean, can you imagine? Like looking into people's mouths all the time, right? But the interesting thing is so when I sat down and I started talking with my professors about communications, they said you could do anything with it. Like you have the ability to just kind of write the script for, whatever. And when I got into tech is when I really saw that come to fruition from the standpoint of working with engineers that had this language and this lingo that they would use. And I had the ability to say, oh, okay, here's what you're trying to say that resonates with the audience. Right. It's kind of started there for me, but that also helped shape my brain around asking the questions in a way that didn't put people on the defense, but put people, it's almost like calling people into conversations versus out. But a lot of times in that, going from communications into marketing, it was about asking the questions that pertained to us, to people of color. And why aren't we? And have we considered? And did you know? And that really led to doing multicultural marketing. And I loved that. And it opened up doors, for me doing work in Senegal, West Africa for many years, and helping build sustainable economies through philanthropy and partnerships in third world countries. And that was one of the key milestones for me when I thought, God, this is the best. This is the work that I want to do. And it was meaningful, and we were doing it in culturally relevant ways. Whereas some tech companies were going in, dumping product and leaving, we were going in, building relationship. We were learning about the culture and understanding of what problem are you trying to solve. And let's let you lead, and we can follow from the sense of we've got product, we've got operational excellence, we've got all of these different things, and we can help shape this. And then I went kind of from that to it was kind of a cross between kind of more new business startup and the onset of the internet and doing a .com startup, and bringing those two things together. Then got me into this space around DEI when I started looking at and kind of lifting up rocks to see, wow, the biggest barrier, and here's this word again, the A word, that access, the biggest barrier to people's success. And when you give them access and you give them, opportunity, people can really thrive. And so that's how I kind of started getting into more of kind of this realm. When HP, the company I was working for at the time, they were splitting the company up, enterprise and consumer. And And in doing that, I was kind of talking with and working with the head of human resources and then Meg Whitman, who was the CEO at the time. And we decided, hey, you know what? We're going to recreate two new organizations. And we want to start with building the most diverse board of directors, and not diversity for diversity's sake, but diversity for the sake of driving business outcomes. And when we did that, that was the turning point for me of the door of no return, because you saw the benefit of doing that, right? And then building out strategies that really helped drive real impact and real change and systemic change. And that was the turning point.
Wow. Very powerful. I mean, you became very, you could tell the shift in your energy and your voice and just everything that was a very powerful awakening in time for you, and a big fire inside your belly with that. Yeah. So how does the role as chief DEI officer for the NBA differ from your previous position at HP?
The NBA, the structures are similar but very different. So you've got your governors, which is your team ownership. And in public, you've got your board of directors, and they are the key influencers. So those are the things that are similar. How you work with them, obviously, the advocacy of or the governance of what each do is, slightly different. The beauty of working at the NBA is that ownership made, especially post 2020 George Floyd, made a commitment of $10 million over 10 years. And that was an investment into specifically Black communities. And because we knew and we know where there is lack today, where there is lack of access today, and so an opportunity. And so that very similar to public is being able to identify where the holes, where the gaps are. They're very different, but they're similar in ways of which you can kind of leverage one from the other. When I was on the public side, I was watching closely what the NBA was doing. And the NBA was making commitments in, what does our leadership look like, VP level and above. Those are influencer roles, and those are critical roles. It's important for people to see people that look like them in leadership. And so we made focus on that. We've built programs out around, we have Future Stars programs to increase representation at the, data and analytics level, health and player safety, basketball operations. So those areas in which we lack, we're able to really make strategic and concerted effort to build pipeline. So very similar. If, when you understand kind of the math of the work that you're doing, you can build a pathway, solutions to solve those.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started here 5.5 years ago, we made the board very much a pledge of our board needs to reflect the students that we're serving. Our students may not be seeing our board, but we definitely need that lived experience here in the room when we are making decisions with donor money. And then we made also a commitment that our senior team who's leading the organization would also reflect the students that we were serving. So, and it's amazing when you are intentional. There's plenty of folks that step right up and they come right in, and then we're all the better for it, because now
I think that's a testament, though, Lisa, to your leadership, because you have to be a leader with a vision and intentionality, and as Meg Whitman would say, boldness. Because this, you get pushed back, and so I think it definitely is a testament to your leadership too.
See, I just know what I don't know, or I know there's a lot that I don't know, so I need to get some other people in here surrounding me with
That's
that.
right. You're the smartest person in the room. You should leave that room, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, DEI and getting buy-in, and there's just so much in the news and all of that. But I'm going to just tap into you as being a champion and being successful. But so, what are some key strategies for building buy-in and accountability for DEI across an organization? Or maybe we don't even have to build buy-in. Maybe we don't even want to say it like that. But what are some key strategies in being wildly successful with DEI across an organization?
Yeah, I mean, buy-in is an okay word to use. I do think that you have to build support. Relationships matter. Trust is critical. And what I find is, and where I tend to start is with the data. And I think that there's both quantitative data, but then I think that the qualitative data is just as important because people's experiences matter. And especially in this space of being able to come to get the best out of individuals, they have to be able to bring their best, which means psychological safety and belongingness is critical for that to happen. And as I said before, that's how you get people from just being in a culture and a place and surviving it and doing their time till they can find their next to really thriving and bringing, innovation and creativity and all of those things. And so a lot of what I like to look at is and we're in a process of doing this right now, is uncovering the quantitative and the qualitative in order to kind of get to that place of then cultivating what are the right solutions. And it's not a one size fits all. If anyone ever says that, like, just stop recording. But it is really being able to look at, what are your hot spots or your greatest vulnerabilities, and being able to admit that, like, there's systemic issues. Like, so what? Like, okay, we said it, now go fix it. And don't try to hide them. Don't try to cover them up. Be transparent, be open about it. If you can't talk about it, then how can you go about fixing it? Right.
I've been at those tables where, okay, the lived experience and how people are experiencing the organization, experiencing me, is there out in the light. And then it's, okay, so how are we moving forward? And a lot of times it's just getting to the point of it's a we thing to solve. Is it? Or is that Lisa, that's a you thing you need to solve, right? And we're being willing to be open to that. Like, I don't really know that it's that person who had this experience, if it's their responsibility to solve this, because it's really coming out of you, right? Sort of.
Yeah, I often say, we come up with strategies when you start looking at like promotion rates of women and women of color, and you see opportunity, for improvement. And so then you start bringing programs in that it looks like you're trying to fix women. And it's like, well, what about trying to fix the culture that women are surrounded in, right? When you go off to these great development programs, you're still coming back to the culture that is what it is, whether it's the microaggressions or bias or, whatever. And so you have to look at things holistically. I like short-term fixes, but those can sometimes be very performative and transactional. And I think sometimes you need a balance of making sure you have transformational change, right? And that's your systems and, foundation of what you really need to establish. And so it's in my view, it's sometimes a balance of those things, but ultimately I want to be the person that's driving transformational change.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, I've been told, well, Lisa, if you just do this, then it'll be better. But nothing then changed in the system. Nothing then changed in the dynamic. And it's not that I have an unwillingness to, okay, let me give this a go, but it's an and.
And you have to stay the course, I mean, in the times that we're in now, kind of going into a political year and SCOTUS's reversal of affirmative action, the impact that those things have sometimes can make you a little bit skittish, depending on the level of risk adversity, your organization has. And so as a DEI, a head of DEI, you have to kind of stay the course and not pump the brakes. And yes, sometimes you have to protect the target, but you can't let up. You just can't. You can't let up because it's too needed. And in our case, we look at things like what is the makeup of our we call it our product, which is the players, right? That are on the court night after night. We have 82% are Black and African American or come from an African country. We have our coaching population, which is we're near like 50%, Black or coaches of color. You have to have all of these balances that match your product. We look at our fan base. We look at the U.S. population. And if you take your eye off of that ball, it can change just like that.
Right. Can you offer us like an approach? Like how do you approach discussions around DEI with those who may be the most resistant or skeptical?
First of all, kind of knowing where that skepticism and resistance comes from. And I'll be honest with you, I tend to focus on, the rule of a thirds, right? A third of the people that are your advocates and they're going to be in that game with you, that fight with you. A third of them like, just tell me what to do. I'm not sure, but you could sell me on this. And then you're going to have a third that you're not going to be able to move. You want to spend very little time on those folks. And then on the others is you've got this other, groundswell of people that if you give them the right tools and march them off, they're going to do the right thing. And so I personally like to focus on those groups.
Very good advice, because usually the third that is resistant is the loudest. And so just really being intentional about this is not getting all of my time and all of my attention. And helping, you have bosses and you call them owners or board of governors and, helping them to make sure they're doing that as well. Just because this is making a lot of noise over here, we have this whole other group that, that are with us and that are indicating we're moving in the right direction. All right. So to round it out here, dear Lesley, what legacy do you hope to leave through your pioneering DEI leadership?
Good question. I would say, just for me as an individual, this work that I do is, I say it's a part of my passion. It's a part of where I feel I'm purposed. And I have had to personally persevere through a lot to do this work. And so those are kind of my 3 Ps. I like to do this work from a servant place and with joy. And so I would just say that wherever I am, I've been in the tech industry, which I've spent the bulk of my career. I'm now in, sports, media, entertainment. It is just to keep moving, keep pushing, keep evolving things. And more than anything, I want to be that person of bringing transparency and openness in order to really drive and advocate for change. And so I don't want to be the person that you're kind of just being a puppet or sweeping it under the floor or trying to build false narratives that sound good. I want to be held accountable to true impact and true change.
Well, from what I know about you, that's how I speak of you now. So this has definitely been a delight for me. But if Lesley, if folks wanted to get in touch with you to find out more about you and your leadership and your journey, what should they do?
I'm Lesley Slaton Brown on LinkedIn. I'm Daily Slate on social media. You can get to me either way.
So thank you very much for your service and dedication to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And thank you for taking time to chat with me today. I wish you all the best so that you can continue to be wildly successful.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa Andrew.
You're welcome. And that wraps up this episode of They Are Waiting for Us. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to subscribe so you can get notifications when new episodes drop. Also, if you could spare a minute, I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave a review to help others like yourself discover the show. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
This has been They Are Waiting for Us. If you want to learn how to create economic opportunity through equal access to quality education and create an extraordinary learning environment focused on everyone realizing their full potential, go to drlisaandrew.com. They Are Waiting for Us is a production of Forbes Books.